We have a really awesome convocation schedule today. We have two things. Mr. Colby Carson is here to talk to you about admissions requirements and the School of Music. And yay, because a lot of you probably are interested in what is it like to apply to college, and Colby's going to tell you all about that. And then we have Eric Defade and his jazz ensemble who are going to play for you. I know a lot of you guys have them in class, so that's going to be super exciting. So let's hear it for Mr. Colby.
Do I need the microphone or can you hear me? Microphone? I'll talk like this, and then if I get too loud or too fast, you just tell me to stop. But someone in the back row needs a microphone, I'll give you the microphone. And excuse me, I needed to bring notes so I don't forget the highlights, but I just wanted to spend a couple of minutes to talk to you a little bit about music admission and music schools. I can give you a little bit of my background and then ask you all a little bit about what you're thinking. And then I want to have a couple of minutes for questions and then leave, of course, plenty of time for the great performance you've got. First and foremost, I'm Colby. I'm the Director of Recruitment and Enrollment for Carnegie Mellon School of Music, and my office is in 108. So any questions you have about music admission overall, and definitely admission to Carnegie Mellon, come find me. I'm happy to talk to you at any time. I'm here weekdays from 9-ish until 4-ish during the summer. So stop by anytime and we can chat. Also, I brought a couple of handouts, or like posters, pamphlets with information about Carnegie Mellon, in case you don't already have one. And everybody loves a free t-shirt, so some t-shirts down there. Come grab one. They'll be there all day, right? Gotta love them. And then to give you a little bit about me, I most recently came from the University of Denver's Lamont School of Music, so another larger university with a school of music attached to it. It is a private university. And then before that, I was working as Assistant Director of Admission for Recruitment at the Juilliard School, so a conservatory, give you an idea about sort of that type of admission process. And I personally went to Florida State University and got an undergraduate in choral music education. I taught high school chorus for a couple of years and then went back and got a master's in arts administration. So I feel like I've got a little bit of every kind of sort of background. I've been doing this type of work for about 5 years now and know all sorts of different people at all sorts of different institutions. And the most important thing I can say to anyone thinking about music for college is talk to the people in my position at the schools you're interested in. We really are all really nice, and we really do want you to have the right information so that you can make the right decision. My boss at Juilliard always said this, and I've stolen it, and I tell her I've stolen it, but there's a right school for every person, a right person for every school, and the person in my position at each school is all about helping you find that right fit for you. So that being said, you're all here for summer pre-college, so you're obviously interested in music. How many of you think that you are going to pursue music for college after this? Cool. How many of you think you're not going to do music for college, but you just want to keep music up in your life for the next however many years? Awesome. Love it. And of you that are thinking music for college, how many of you are going into your senior year? Great. How many are going into junior year? Any going into sophomore year? Freshman year? Okay, cool. So juniors and seniors. Great time to start thinking. Juniors, it's definitely not too early to start thinking about what you want to do for college. Seniors, you're definitely right in the thick of it, right? So some questions to ask yourself as you're thinking about what type of fit is right for you in terms of college is to really consider, is music your biggest passion in life? Do you really want to spend a ton of time in practice rooms, or are there some other things that you want to do outside of music? How does stress affect you? Does it motivate you and make you really want to do more, or does it sort of make you shut down and say, okay, I need a break from this? And does your family support your decision for music? Hopefully they do. You're here. That's always a good sign. And most importantly, I think, for undergraduates is what you want from your college experience. So to break that down a little bit more, you can look at the differences between a conservatory or conservatory style study or a school of music and a larger liberal arts university. And there are pluses and minuses to both. Neither of them is perfect. The biggest thing that I would say is is if you're the person that really thinks music is your passion, you want only music, music 24/7, music in the practice room, music in rehearsal, studying music, doing lots of music, then you're probably leaning more towards conservatory. If you're the kind of person who has a couple of other interests, maybe you're interested in seeing how music interacts with other things, maybe you're interested in doing music and something totally different separately, then you're looking at more of a college, a liberal arts university, a university with the School of Music attached to it. And then, of course, there are all sorts of other types of departments of music, music schools that are associated with larger universities but are conservatories. So again, as you're doing research, talk to the person of the schools that you're looking at and see what might be the fit for you. The other thing to consider, and I know I'm talking fast, I'm sorry, I talk fast a lot. Raise your hand if you have a question, tell me to slow down, but I'm gonna try and get through most of my stuff fast so we have time for a few questions. Other thing to consider is what type of degree you're after. If you're after a BA or a Bachelor of Arts degree, or a BM, BFA, a Bachelor of Music or Bachelor of Fine Arts. Does anyone know the differences between the two? Overall, generally, the BA is going to be about 1/3 music and 2/3 other stuff. So it's a Bachelor of Arts with an emphasis in the music side of things. The BM or BFA, which they really are interchangeable, it depends on the institution you go to as to what they offer. Carnegie Mellon offers a Bachelor of Fine Arts because all of the degrees are conferred by the college at Carnegie Mellon, and we're a College of Fine Arts, which is why we offer a Bachelor of Fine Arts. Other schools offer a Bachelor of Music. Again, pretty interchangeable in the world, and the idea is in that respect more 2/3 music and 1/3 other things. So in both degrees, you're going to get out of music in some ways. You're going to have those basic English classes. You're going to do some college algebra, those types of things. But it really comes down to, do you want to do more music or more other things, or have sort of the ability in a BA situation to really explore some other things. And you're, again, depending on the institution you're looking at, like we offer the BFA, and you can do the BFA here and do a lot of other things. Carnegie Mellon offers the BXA, so that's really unique to Carnegie Mellon. Not many other schools offer it quite that way. So instead of double majoring, have you heard of the BXA? I don't want to repeat myself too much if you all know it. So the BXA is taking a double major, but making it one step further. So in the general double major realm, you would have a major in music and a major in humanities, whatever part of humanities you want to imagine right now. And they would run side by side, and you would do all of your music courses and all of your humanities courses, and you graduate with a major in music and a major in humanities, and really never the two should meet. They kind of run parallel. The BXA at Carnegie Mellon, it's not just for musicians, but for the way I talk about it, for musicians, it would be taking your two interests and combining them. So the BXA for humanities would end up being a BHA, a Bachelor of Humanities and Arts, and you would take 2 years, your first 2 years, and get the basics of music and the basics of humanities, whichever subject in humanities you're interested in, and then the next 2 years you're looking at how they combine. So you sort of take the yellow of music and the blue of humanities and make a green degree out of it in your last 2 years. And so then you end up with a capstone project that can be everything from a paper to a presentation to a performance. There are actual projects of completion that can be done. I think there's a new puppet festival that is the product of a BXA going on this summer. So all sorts of different ways to combine your interests. And again, every institution slightly different. That's the way we allow it here at Carnegie Mellon. And we do also have the typical double major or minor in another area. Another thing to ask yourself is how much other stuff you want to do within music. Are you interested in minoring within music as a music major? Do the institutions that you're looking at offer music minors for music majors? Some do, some don't. Carnegie Mellon does. So those are just sort of the types of characteristics that you want to be aware of what you're looking for. If you're a senior, you've probably done a lot of that deductive research already, and now you're looking at applying. So what are the main things to remember about applying to music schools? Number one, we're all very similar, and yet we're all so totally different. So as you're finishing your summer before your senior year, as you're doing your research, take time. Who likes Excel? Anybody? Awesome, you're musicians. Okay, and if you don't like Excel, make Excel your friend for the admission process. Take all the schools that you're looking at applying to and make a column and rows for each sort of thing and say, okay, I'm interested in Juilliard, in Carnegie Mellon, in Florida State, in Ithaca, in Eastman, and all these schools. What is the application deadline for these schools? 99.9% of them are going to be December 1st. What are the pre-screening requirements for my instrument? They're going to vary by institution. What are the audition dates? What are the audition requirements? Are the audition requirements the same as the pre-screening? If you put that all side by side, I promise you all of the confusion will start to be a little less confusing. Because when you see that Juilliard for voice majors has three pieces, one Italian art song from the 18th century or before, one song in English and another song in any language, but then Eastman has an Italian art song and a song in French and a song in Hungarian, I made that up, or this, that, and the other, and you put them side by side, you're gonna realize you don't have to prepare 8 different songs because you need 3 for this school and 4 for this school and 4 for this school. You need to prepare 5 different songs because your Italian art song from the 18th century or before for Juilliard can fit the Italian requirement for Eastman, which can fit your other song in any language requirement for Carnegie Mellon. So if you sort of start looking at it that way, I promise it will help you make more sense. Again, if you have questions about that, come see me in the next couple of weeks. 108, I actually have example Excel spreadsheets because I'm just that cool, I promise. Other than that, pre-screening, is it important? How many of you are vocalists? Okay. How many of you are string players? Cool. Wind players? Great. What am I missing? Piano. Thank you. Piano. Anybody else? Okay. Yeah, who else? What other instrument? Piano? Okay, cool. So pretty much all the instruments that I mentioned have pre-screening at some institutions. So if you see that your major is pre-screened, don't think, oh, I'll make a recording the night before it's due, it'll be great, and then I'll go audition. Your pre-screening is your first audition. You are not going to get invited to an audition unless you pass the pre-screening. So you really have to consider it as important as the live audition. It doesn't mean that you have to have a professional recording. It doesn't mean that you have to go into a recording studio and spend hours and then have it edited down and then send this fantastic cut to your audition places. It just means you need to think about it, you need to think about where you're doing it, you need to prepare for it, you need to take your time to record it, watch the entire thing or listen to it if it's a recording all the way through and make sure that it represents you to the best of your abilities. Okay, so don't sit the recorder on the piano if you're a vocalist and then sing and then all we can hear is piano. Try not to do it in a room that's like totally dead. If it's a video recording, true story, don't stand in front of the opening to a kitchen and be singing and have someone walk through to get something out of the fridge and walk back out while you're singing for your pre-screening recording. True story. You would be amazed. So those types of things, just think about it. And again, watch it, listen to it, whatever it may be. Borrow a classroom at school, borrow a hall in a church nearby. Spend a couple of minutes really making a good recording that shows you the best of your ability. Faculty really want you to do well. They really do give you benefit of the doubt, especially in recordings. They try to make sure that they're listening for the qualities that they want. But again, it depends on the recording you send. So take it very seriously in terms of pre-screening. Hopefully you pass pre-screening, you get invited to a live audition. Again, I promise you, at every institution I've ever been to, I've ever auditioned for, I've ever worked for, the faculty want you to do well. There's this moment when you walk into a room and you introduce yourself and you haven't performed yet, that the faculty are thinking, this could be the next best thing to happen in my studio. They want that for you just as much as you want to be admitted to the school. So relax and enjoy that moment and take your time and do your best. I promise not every audition is going to be the same. Not every audition is going to be absolutely your best performance ever. But if you do your best, the faculty are going to feel that and see that and really know you as a performer. So that's sort of my inspirational thought on auditions. The real deal is then after you audition, decisions are made, right? So then decisions get made by April 1st for most, really every institution you're ever going to apply for. You have from April 1st to May 1st as undergraduate students to make your final decision. Use that time. Listen to me carefully. Use that time. If you know on April 1st that you got admitted to your #1 school, your dream school, you definitely want to go there, awesome, take it, do it, Godspeed. Most of you are going to be admitted to at least 2 or 3 schools that you really want to go to. They're going to have very similar financial offers. There's going to be all sorts of factors in play. That month is for you to call people, talk to faculty members at the schools, talk to admissions directors, talk to financial aid people, and really try to make the best things possible happen for you. So take that month, use that time. If you're waitlisted, call the places that you're waitlisted, if they're the places you want to go, and see what you can find out about the waitlist. Most of the people in my position are very open about, here's the deal with waitlist, here's where you are, this is what we're thinking, give us the rest of the month, call me every week, we'll talk about it. In the end, waitlist, I've never been, again, at an institution where a waitlist was just for show. We put people on the waitlist and we never talk to them again. A waitlist is there for a reason. We want that person to come to the school. We have so many spaces. We all guarantee different performance opportunities. We don't want to take those away, so we can't over-admit. We could enroll 82 flutes, but not 90 if we admitted 82, 70, let's say, of you would just be sitting in practice rooms and not have performance opportunities. So that's the reason that we have to sort of be careful about how many people we admit. So that's my little spiel on the month of April. Use it to your advantage, and then when you have made a decision, let everyone know your decision. All the places that you don't want to go, want to know that you don't want to go there, okay? Especially if we have waitlist and all of those other things in play. So it's always easy to tell the person you want to go to that you want to go to there, but if you tell all the other places that you decline their offer of admission, we'll be very appreciative of it. That's my far too long speech on sort of brief college admissions. You know where to find me, you know what our website is, all those types of things. I have a couple of minutes, I think, to ask you to ask me questions, what I confused you about, what I spoke too fastly about, quickly, fastly. What? Yes? What does it take to get into Juilliard? What it takes to get into any school. Doing your very best and going forth with the idea of, this is the school I want to be at, this is what the level I'm performing at, and performing your best for the faculty. The biggest problem that we had, I was assistant director of admission for recruitment, and people would say, oh, your job must be so easy, you're recruiting for Juilliard. The biggest problem that Juilliard has is people don't think they're good enough for Juilliard. And so they'll apply at every other school and not at Juilliard, because they don't think they're good enough for Juilliard. You don't know until you apply. You don't know until you audition. So if you are really interested in going to Juilliard, if you're really interested in going to any school, take the time, look at the requirements, prepare yourself, work with your teacher, try to get to the best of your best, go into the audition with the idea of, I'm going to do my best. It might not be better than the next person, but it's my best. Faculty want people that are going to work with them. If you walk in any audition and you're absolutely outstanding, the faculty might not see you as having the potential to be a student. Does that make sense? You aren't going to be perfect in your undergraduate audition. If you were, you'd be on stage at the New York Phil, not auditioning for whatever school you're auditioning for. Cool? So don't let the name of any institution scare you in that audition. Yes? Such a good question. I'm so glad you asked, because I totally skipped over that. It's going to depend on the institution. Generally speaking, if you're looking at the conservatory style school, I'm the scale now. The audition is going to be weighted heavily, and all the supplemental materials are going to be considered, but the audition is going to be the biggest thing. Most other institutions, schools of music, it's going to be a little more equally balanced. So, for instance, at Juilliard, they don't want a letter of recommendation from your music teacher. They want a letter of recommendation from a high school academic teacher, and they want your high school transcripts, but they don't require SAT scores. They're really looking at your musicianship, and then they're looking at how you are as a student overall. Are you going to be successful in the academic classes that are required? An institution like Carnegie Mellon, The School of Music audition process is looking at your musical background. They're looking at your audition. It's really heavily weighted musically in the School of Music. But then we say, okay, we want to admit this person. And the university is saying, okay, here are their SAT scores. Here's what their other academic transcripts look like. It looks like they really did bad in history in this one semester, what happened there. And I'll go back to you and say, well, you really did bad in history on this one semester. And you'll say, but I broke my ankle and I was out of class for a month. And I'll say, but they broke their ankle and they're out of class for a month. And then they'll say, okay, well then we can probably make everything else sort of balance out and offer admission. So SATs, you can usually find averages for each institution, and like we offer averages for admitted music students at Carnegie Mellon, so you can sort of see how you stack up against different types of students, because music students' SAT scores are typically a little lower than the School of Computer Science SAT scores, for instance. But so SATs are make a difference, but they're not the be-all end-all at pretty much any music institution. If you're a fantastic musician and not a great test taker, be aware that you're going to have to discuss it a little bit more, but it won't be like the be-all end-all. I saw a question here.
I was wondering, so for if you're going into academics, there's easy quantitative data to see like what schools are better than other schools. How would you go about like ranking the quality of music schools, and like how do you know, like I guess what you're going on with, like don't apply, don't just not apply because of your name.
Yeah.
Like how do you tell how good a music school is?
Another great question. So did you all hear that? How do you tell how good a music school is? The thought process that I like to share is, you've all heard of 6 degrees of separation. So there's a theory that there's 6 degrees of separation between you and anyone else in the universe, basically. So I could find a way that I'm somehow connected to Kevin Bacon. I think there's like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon online somewhere. Anyway, I digress. In music, there's like 2 degrees of separation. So your private music teacher probably knows someone who went to one institution or another. You are probably friends with someone who's gone to college at a college that you might be interested in. You are at least aware of big orchestras and who's performing in those orchestras, or opera productions, those types of things. Do your own sort of recon and find where you think the best fit is going to be. I think, like you said, there's quantitative data in academics where you can say this school leads to this type of degree. I think in music it's much more about personal fit, because in music you're going to have an hour lesson a week typically with a faculty member. If that faculty member is the absolute best performer on that instrument ever in the entire universe, ever in the history of that instrument, and you and that faculty member don't get along, you're not going to get a really good education out of it. If they're a really good faculty member and they've had some good performances and you click and they're going to help you become the next best thing, you're going to get a good education out of it. Again, and that goes to asking questions, having sample lessons if possible. Obviously, you might not be able to visit every school you're interested in. Trying, if you do as many live auditions as possible, schedule some sample lessons around the audition day. Try and get in and get to know the faculty members, because it really is that personal fit. And it goes back to that month of April. If you hadn't had the chance to meet with a faculty member, or at least talk to them or email them, do it during that month of April and see if they make sense. Yes? Yes, so there, in terms of international student, for music schools, pretty much generally everywhere, they're really just looking at your application, and most colleges aren't really trying to make or break some sort of quota in terms of admission of any kind. I mean, obviously we're looking at international student data, we're looking at all sorts of background data, but we're not going to judge you more harshly or less harshly based on your citizenship.
And how does BXA equal self-defined major?
BXA equal a self-defined major? Yes. The short answer is yes. Come see me, we'll talk about BXA a little bit more. Yeah. I think I'm out of time so that you have time to have the performance and really enjoy that. So I will skedaddle. 108 CFA, 9-ish, 4-ish, every weekday. I'm there, come find me. Love to talk to you more. After the performance, t-shirts, brochures, all sorts of fun stuff, come grab it. have a great day. Thanks for letting me talk at you for a long time.
to Tom Wendt on the drums. Thomas Wendt. On piano, great Cliff Barnes. On the bass is Anton Defade. For those of you that don't have me in class here, which I think is actually most of you, my name is Eric Defade. I am actually, in fact, related to Anton. He is my nephew. Thank you, thanks. But many people think he's just my younger brother. Anyway, so how many people here have ever tried to play jazz before? Oh, that's good. How'd it go for you? Yeah. For those of you that don't realize, I'll just give you a quick synopsis of what we're doing here. We call a song, or a tune, in this case the first song we played was called What Is This Thing Called Love? And that song has obviously a melody, and the harmony of the song is represented by a set of chord changes or chord structures that mirror the song all the way from beginning to end. And we call this the form. So this is a 32-bar form of the song, 32 measures that keep repeating and repeating and repeating. And as jazz musicians, we know we all are communicating with each other while this form is happening. It's kind of like a train that's rolling, you keep jumping on and off. When I'm not playing, the form is still going on. I take a solo over the form, piano takes a solo over the form, bass player took a solo over the form, then we did what we call trading eights, which is where we played 8 measures of drums, 8 measures of piano, 8 measures of drums, and back and forth, but the form is still intact and going the same way. So while it might seem like sleight of hand or magically all coming at the same place, even during the extended drum solo that Tom Wendt just took there a second ago, which was really great, by the way, even during that drum solo, he is playing over that form. So in our minds, the song is going on while we're soloing over it. So while it seemed like it might seem like it's just we're playing anything and just kind of communicating in a way, there is actually a structure that we're following in terms of what the form of the song is. When it comes to what we play over the chord changes, that's kind of a long discussion that you have to see me about for private lessons. If you know your major scales, that's a good start. You'd have to know your minor scales. That's another good thing to know. All 4 kinds of minor scales, being harmonic, pure, melodic, and Dorian are the 4 kinds of minor scales. Those are good to know. Pentatonic scales of every construction, there's about 120 of those. Diminished scales, diminished whole tone, fully altered scales. Lydian, all the different modes, Ionian, Dorian, Lydian, Phrygian, mixed Lydian, Aeolian, and Locrian. Super Locrian. So all in all, really, I think if you learned about 250 scales, you'd be ready to start playing some good jazz. If you take 3 a day, you know, in a certain amount of time, you'll have them all learned. All right, let's do Up Jump Spring. This next song is a waltz. Why don't you guys go over the form once? Let's play over the form once. This is called Up Jump Spring. And I'm going to jump off the stage and get my music. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Thank you very much. So one other element of jazz that's something that's always been very interesting and exciting for me is that you can take a group of musicians that can play, like these guys. You can go anywhere in the world and encounter other musicians who have a similar idea of the vocabulary of the music that you're playing. All of us have played in different countries all over the world. When I go to Japan, I'll call a certain song like the last one, and if they're good, and usually in advance you try to make sure that's true, they'll jump right on and play it with you. In many ways, it is truly an international language that way. It's a way to quickly communicate. Even if you don't speak the language, it's amazing how jazz kind of binds musicians together. They are kind of on the same wavelength. The other great thing about it is we can always scramble up the songs to reinvent them every single time. So if a song has a decent harmonic structure to it and a good melody, you can rework it in almost infinite amount of ways. So I decided during the last tune, about halfway through, I wanted to play this tune called Body and Soul, which is a very common jazz standard. But it also occurred to me we didn't really play a bossa nova feel yet. So the first song we did was kind of an up-tempo Latin that went into a swing. The last one was a jazz waltz. And to mix the program up, we'd like to play a bossa nova, which is a Latin feel that originated in Brazil. And so we're going to take the standard Body and Soul that was written in the 40s, and we're going to play it in a modern Brazilian bossa nova style. Thank you very much. So at this time, I'd like to open it up for some questions you guys might have. Anybody have any questions at all of any kind about chord scale relationships, contrapuntal elaboration of static harmony, rhythmic considerations? Yes. I'm sorry? Yeah, I play all the saxophones and baritone, alto, tenor, and soprano, and flute, piccolo, a little bit of oboe, though I try to not play that much. It's too hard. Some piano, and a little bit of hand percussion. Some piano, a little bit, skosh. But yeah, the thing about saxophone is, I don't know who decided this years ago, but they decided that when you play saxophone, you're supposed to play the other instruments too. I also play clarinet, but they decided saxophone players are supposed to play every woodwind instrument. I'm not sure who decided that. Especially, the saxophones are all very similar, but the difference between flute and saxophone is like, you know, you're either an attorney or a crop duster. I mean, they're like entirely different in terms of how you play them. I'm not sure who decided that, but that's how that is. Any other questions? Yes.
I notice sometimes when I've seen other performances of jazz musicians, I know that the trombones sometimes are different. Some are. This is not coming out well. Some are shinier than other ones. I know that sounds really stupid, but some I've noticed some are like a matte color, and some are.
Oh yeah. Well, as far as this saxophone goes, I've had this for so long, and it was actually made in Paris in 1960. And what happens with, as you play an instrument for a while, you just blow all the lacquer off of it after a while. Just all the lacquer or the shininess comes off of it. And so for a little while, my horn was looking really cool, because jazz players like that kind of look, you know. For instance, this flute, my wife keeps saying, "Aren't you going to shine that thing?" Or I'm like, "No, I want it to look black eventually." But what happened with my tenor was it was starting to pit in places, like it was starting, the metal was starting to wear through, so my repairman, who was one of the best anywhere on the planet, did a little dip on it, made it more like a matte finish. So that's exactly what it is. It's like a matte finish dip on the horn to make, it didn't really affect the sound at all, but I think it looks super cool, especially on TV and under the lights, it looks good. Yep.
How important is it for all four of you to be not only on the same page in terms of music, but on the same page in terms of how you relate to one another and how you all get along?
Oh, that's a really good question. Tom, you want to say something about that? Or?
It's very important. It's, a lot of times, there's we've all been in situations where you're playing in a group and everyone is not on the same page musically, and it can be very, very difficult. It's almost like someone speaking a different dialect of the same language, and it can be hard to communicate. So it is very important that everyone is on the same page musically. Luckily, we pretty much are. We are all sort of on the same page, and it's very easy to play with these guys. So that's a great question. It's very important for that to happen. If it's not like that, the music is only going to get to a certain level.
It's pretty amazing too. There's like almost like a pass-fail line in a way. You can hear a musician in the jazz world for about 5 or 6 measures and realize if you can play with that person. It's almost like an automatic thing. It's not really ever in question. Like, the first time I heard Cliff, I said, yeah, this is going to work. We played a gig, I think, at James Street or somewhere, and just that kind of thing. I knew Anton would be good because he's in the family, so we can talk about this stuff over Thanksgiving dinner. But no, it's true. It's a really good question. You kind of, and the other great thing about jazz, along those same lines, you can kind of hear what somebody knows within a few measures of them playing too. You can kind of tell, because there's so much history and there's so much material and vocabulary involved and harmonic consideration. You can kind of hear someone's knowledge on display as they play. It can be intimidating at first, because especially when you're in a situation where people really are good listeners, they know what's happening. Like a upscale jazz club where people have a good idea of what's going on. You really have to be on it. You really have to be kind of on the case. Yeah, you had a question?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I was just wondering how much of it is improv. Like while you're doing it, do you go through it a bunch before you perform it?
Yeah, everything today is all pretty much improvised except for the melodies. Like every single thing we do is all just on the spot improvisation. Now there are devices that we have that we use. There are scales that I can rely on, certain patterns that you use. But in general, it's sort of like on-the-spot composition. Any comp majors here for the summer? You know how you keep a notebook of melodics of compositional items. That's a good thing to do. Is just keep like a little manuscript notebook full of ideas, and then eventually you kind of fashion them into a composition. Or you remember, I wrote this a few months back. Let's see if it fits in. It's the same way in the jazz world, only it's all internal. And it's not written down. You just kind of have an idea in your head. I really like that concept. I'm going to try to work that one through on this particular tune. Yeah.
If someone doesn't really have much experience with playing jazz, but wants to start, what would be the first step?
Do you play an instrument? What do you play?
Piano.
Piano. Okay. So in many ways, you've already done kind of the hard work about it. If you know the scales and can arpeggiate, the next thing is to get some material that shows you which scales go over which chords. And I think the big mystery is deciphering the chord symbols. It looks kind of like hieroglyphics at first when you look at all the different things, but there's only a few things you have to know. And then, so this is what at the university here, I actually teach this, where there's obviously a lot of great classical players here, and I tell them, you've done the hard work already. I'll take a look at classical flutists or clarinetists, and I'll say, okay, this scale that you played, or this part of this sonata that you played, will fit over these set of chord changes. And then, so you just kind of start plugging in what you already know to what the definition is of the chord change. So it's all about the chord scale relationship. So I'd say the first thing is keep up with all your major and minor scales and then figure out how they fit over chord symbols. And then just listen. You have to, it's like a foreign language. You have to listen to jazz constantly to really get the feel of it. It's really hard to even explain or quantize, though it's been tried many times to try to write down exactly what's happening, but that internal feeling is something that has to just be learned by conversing. Anybody else? Okay, how are we doing on time? We're done? Oops. We'll play one more for you, okay?
Strasbourg.
What?
Strasbourg.
Strasbourg, Saint Denis. Next time. Thanks. Let's do rhythm changes. Sure. Thank you all for coming. This is a George Gershwin composition entitled Rhythm Changes, and actually it's called I Got Rhythm. It's based on rhythm changes. Here's tempo. I eventually will stop snapping. And it's going to be, there's many songs written over this particular chord structure, 32 measures. There's some, I'll even play a couple that you might recognize. So this is rhythm changes. I'm not sure which head we're going to do yet. Okay. One, two, 1, 2. Thank you. Tom Wendt on drums. Cliff Barnes on the piano. Anton Defade on the bass. Thank you very much. Been a great audience. Any questions, please come and see me. I'll be here for the rest of the summer. So thank you very much.